The 7th overall pick in the 2021 NBA Draft, Jonathan Kuminga, was one of the most polarizing prospects in the draft. Some thought he was a future superstar, while others thought he was highly overrated and a project player. I think that Kuminga's Ignite tape and the way the Warriors have handled his development early on in his rookie year so that he is a very raw project player with upside. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Today I want to talk about what I believe is the game that really put Jonathan Kuminga on the map as a potential top 10 pick one day. That game for me is the Texas Titans game during the 2019 EYBL circuit. At the time, a 16-year-old Kuminga was going to have to face off against two top 10 ranked players in the class ahead of his, one of them being a future first overall pick. And well, I have seen many outlier games in my time as a basketball fan from various players, but this one really sticks out to me. But before we get into today's video, if you're new and you like basketball, I really think you would love this channel. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit notification bell to be notified whenever I release a video. I make videos that take elements from film essays and apply them to basketball. I also make videos covering the NBA draft, and I also just do videos in general doing film studies and film breakdowns of NBA players, high school players, college players, whatever. So if any of that interests you, this is the channel for you. Let's try to get 100 likes on this video so YouTube will recommend it to others. But with that being said, let's get right into the video. You might be asking yourself, what is EYBL? EYBL stands for Elite Youth Basketball League. It's an AAU circuit founded by Nike in 2010 where the best of the best compete in both boys and girls basketball. We've seen many future top-end draft picks compete on the EYBL circuit, including guys like Anthony Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum, and Trae Young, just to name a few of those guys that have competed on this circuit, because I could be here all day naming future NBA players that have been very successful that have played on EYBL. I personally actually view EYBL as a valuable tape study in general, but also for guys that don't attend those big schools like Oak Hill or Montford, because it gives the guys that play at smaller schools a chance to compete against players on their level, which they may not get to do during the regular high school season. Now, as for Kuminga, he played on an EYBL team called NY Renaissance in 2019. But who was Jonathan Kuminga at the time? Originally from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Kuminga moved to the United States in 2016 in order to pursue a professional basketball career. After a freshman season at Huntington Prep, a school famous for producing guys like Andrew Wiggins and Miles Bridges, Kuminga would transfer to Our Savior New American for his sophomore year. As a sophomore, he averaged 25 points per game, 5 rebounds per game, and 5 assists per game for the season. He won MVP of the Slam Dunk to the Beat Showcase, where he set a single-game event record with 40 points. He was also Max Prep's National Sophomore of the Year. Kuminga was among the best players in the 2021 recruiting class, entering the summer of 2019 as a consensus top 5 guy in that class. Kuminga was praised for his athleticism, scoring potential on defense, and as a passer, as well as having a very good frame for someone that's his age. Here's what a scouting report had to say about Kuminga in 2018. Already at 6'8", with extremely long arms, he is beginning to put his skill game together. Length, athleticism, and versatility are his strengths. He has shown the ability to get into the lane and rebound well, is capable of guarding multiple positions, and also block shots. Needs to continue to get better with his outside shot, and if that comes, he should be nearly impossible to guard. His upside is through the roof, and he is just now beginning to figure out how good he can become. He should hear his name called early in the NBA draft when he decides to make that move. So basically what they're saying is he's a great athlete, has a ton of upside, but still is a bit raw, has some shot selects and concerns, and really just needs to put it all together. So we know what Jonathan Kuminga is up to this point now. We also have to look at the other side of this, which is his opponent, the Texas Titans. Texas Titans featured one of the best duos on the EYBL circuit that summer, with 2 consensus top 10 ranked players in the 2020 recruiting class at the time, Greg Brown and Cade Cunningham. Greg Brown was a borderline top 5 guy according to most ranking sites at the time, a freak athlete with potential defensive versatility and what many would call a growing offensive game. Of course, now we know that Greg Brown struggled a lot at Texas and would go in the second round, where he is with the Portland Trail Blazers and he barely plays as a rookie, but at the time, Greg Brown was considered the real deal. Then you have Cade Cunningham, who many of you know now would go number 1 overall in the 2021 NBA Draft to the Detroit Pistons. But at the time, while Cade was ranked highly, but he wasn't as ranked highly as you would think. That summer, Cade Cunningham would put the world on notice, and he would finish that summer a consensus top 3 player in most ranking sites. In fact, most actually ranked him first. But entering that summer, Cade was closer to that 7 to 10 range than the top 5. This mainly had to do with questions people had about his scoring at the time, which he would answer this summer. So when you look at what Kuminga is going up against, mind you, at the time, he was in a class behind these guys, what he was able to do is impressive. So the stage is set, and we have a matchup between a top-ranked junior and 2 top-ranked seniors. And what does Jonathan Kuminga do in this game? Well, simply put, he dominates this game. He scored 43 points, he shot 17 for 24 from the field, he shot 7 for 11 from 3, he grabbed 7 rebounds and had 3 assists. Even though his team would lose this game, he was incredible. Obviously, what stands out is the 3-point shooting, considering he's not a consistent shooter, to put it nicely. So to see him hit threes at a really good rate was intriguing. He had 9 points in the final minute of this game, which came off hitting 3-pointers, mind you. What I enjoyed was actually not the shooting though. I think I enjoyed the most was the fact that he played to his strengths for the most part. He attacked the basket, he used his physicality and athleticism to his advantage. Yeah, the defense was a bit shaky. Granted, he was considered the quote-unquote primary defender on Cade Cunningham, which is never an easy cover, but he still showed flashes as a defender. As a passer, he was up and down. He flashed some encouraging reads, but also had a lot of passes that were either turnovers or passes that should have been turnovers. In a way, he kind of alternated from being the player that he actually is with the strengths and the flaws that he actually has, and being a 09-13 LeBron hybrid. Once he had it going, he was unstoppable, because he's already hard to stop, especially at that level, given his strength and athleticism, and just how good he is as a downhill threat. And when he's hitting shots like that, well, good luck trying to stop him. And to do it against 2 highly rated players in a class ahead of him at the time is impressive. This is one of my, if not my actual favorite prospect game that I've ever done a tape study on, because it's just such an outlier compared to the rest of his tape. And it's interesting to me to see this game in the sense of this is what Kuminga could be if he puts it all together, because the dominance in that game is what I believe to a certain extent Kuminga looks like if he ever hits his 100th percentile outcome. What makes it interesting is usually when you see this kind of game, you see it at the college level, or in his case the G League where he was with Ignite, or you see it in the NBA. But to see it at 16 years old in an AAU setting isn't common, especially among someone that was drafted as highly as he was. It's almost like he got control of his superpowers for a brief moment, which is fitting because the way I would describe watching Jonathan Kuminga's tape in high school would be as a superhero that has a lot of power but doesn't have control over it, like he's Connor Kent in the first few episodes of Young Justice. And then One game, he got the patch that Connor was given by Lex Luthor that allows him to go full power mode. I don't know, I just think it's interesting to see someone have this kind of game from a development standpoint at this stage of the process. When it comes to Jonathan Kuminga, I do believe that I tried to force a development curve that just didn't actually exist and wasn't actually there. I thought Kuminga was someone who was a coach telling him to take less jumpers and attack the basket more, or shot selection and defensive awareness improvements via game reps away from being unstoppable. I thought it wasn't a matter of adding skills because I thought the skills were already there, but more about putting skills he already had together. I thought he had the highest ceiling in the draft going into the cycle. I even predicted he wasn't done growing. I thought he could grow to around 6'9" or 6'10", when that wasn't even close to the case. I guess I was just stubborn and wasn't willing to admit that what I thought I saw wasn't actually there. I think that affected how I covered him for a good chunk of the cycle. I still think Kuminga can be good, but I don't think he's as good as I thought he could be in high school looking back on it. And what I learned from this is that your evaluation can change the more you watch a prospect, because you're learning more even in a short amount of time, not only about a prospect, but learning more about prospect evaluation over time, and things are bound to change. I still do believe Jonathan Kuminga has a decent amount of potential and can be a very good player in the NBA one day. I don't know if he ever will reach his 100th percentile outcome, because there are a lot of things that have to go right as far as development and on-court opportunities early on that I just don't know if they will. But that doesn't mean he can't be a good player even if he can't reach his ceiling. Do I think he ever will have a game like the one I saw against Texas Titans? I don't think it's very likely, but only time will tell. I'm not going to rule it out, but really ever since that game we just haven't seen anything quite like that game, and against NBA competition it's just going to be harder. But again, like I said earlier, only time will tell. What I will say though is that this is one of my favorite prospect games ever, and I can tell you that for sure. This isn't something time will tell. This is something I know for a fact. This is something that I go back and watch a lot when I'm bored or just want to see something from the past, and it just amazes me every time how much this game stands out compared to just about every other Jonathan Kuminga game I've ever watched.